The history between China and Taiwan, a century of tension. When we hear about rising tensions in East Asia, especially headlines about China and Taiwan, it might feel like a modern issue. But the story between the two stretches back more than 7 decades, rooted in a struggle over sovereignty, identity, and political legitimacy. To fully understand the ongoing threats we see in today's news, we need to trace the history that began in the first half of the 20th century. The roots of today's conflict lie in the Chinese Civil War. After the fall of the Qing Dynasty in 1911, China entered a turbulent period. 2 political forces eventually emerged: the Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, or KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, led by Mao Zedong. The two groups briefly united during World War II to fight against Japan, which had invaded large parts of China. But after Japan's defeat in 1945, their fragile alliance collapsed. The Civil War reignited, pitting nationalists against communists in a brutal contest for control over China. By 1949, the communists gained the upper hand. Mao Zedong declared the founding of the People's Republic of China, PRC, on the mainland. Meanwhile, the defeated nationalist government, along with roughly 1.2 million soldiers, officials, and civilians, retreated to the island of Taiwan. There, Chiang Kai-shek established the Republic of China, ROC, in exile. From that moment forward, 2 rival governments both claimed to be the legitimate ruler of all of China, including Taiwan. For the next several decades, Taiwan and mainland China existed in a stalemate. Initially, both governments claimed that eventual reunification under their own leadership was the goal. Taiwan operated under martial law and one-party rule, while mainland China was consolidating under communist control. In the 1970s and 1980s, however, Taiwan began to change. Economic growth transformed the island into one of Asia's 4 tigers, alongside South Korea, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Prosperity fueled demands for political reform, and Taiwan transitioned into a vibrant democracy by the 1990s. At the same time, Taiwan's identity began to shift. While the government once spoke of retaking the mainland, more and more Taiwanese people began to see themselves as distinct from China. Surveys today show that a majority of Taiwan's 23 million people identify primarily as Taiwanese, not Chinese. The international community also played a critical role in shaping the dispute. For a time, many countries, including the United States, recognized the Republic of China in Taiwan as the legitimate government of all China. But in 1971, the United Nations transferred China's seat from the ROC to the PRC. And by 1979, the United States officially recognized Beijing as the sole legal government of China. Still, Washington didn't abandon Taiwan. The U.S. Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act, pledging to provide Taiwan with defensive arms and to consider any attempt to change Taiwan's status by force as a matter of grave concern. This careful balancing act, acknowledging Beijing while still supporting Taiwan, remains the cornerstone of U.S. policy today. The tension between China and Taiwan has now lasted for more than 75 years, beginning in 1949 when the two governments split. For Beijing, Taiwan is seen not as an independent nation, but as a breakaway province that must eventually be reunited with the mainland, by force if necessary. For Taiwan, especially as democracy has flourished, the desire is to preserve its current system and de facto independence. Most Taiwanese do not push for a formal declaration of independence, largely because such a move could provoke a military response from China. Instead, Taiwan walks a careful line, maintaining its sovereignty in practice without triggering Beijing's red lines. At its core, the conflict boils down to legitimacy and sovereignty. The People's Republic of China insists there is only one China, and that Taiwan is part of it. This principle, known as the One China policy, is non-negotiable for Beijing. Allowing Taiwan to remain independent, or worse, to declare full independence, would challenge the CCP's narrative of national unity and risk emboldening separatist movements elsewhere in China, such as Tibet or Xinjiang. For Taiwan, however, the issue is about self-determination. Its people have built a thriving democracy with their own government, elections, and international trade relationships. From their perspective, they have never been ruled by the People's Republic of China and should have the right to decide their own future. This clash of perspectives explains the ongoing threats we hear about in the news. Beijing has dramatically increased military exercises near Taiwan in recent years, flying warplanes into its air defense zone and conducting naval drills. These moves serve as warnings against independence and as demonstrations of China's growing power. Meanwhile, Taiwan, backed by U.S. arms sales and informal international support, continues to prepare for the possibility of conflict. The stakes extend far beyond the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan is a critical hub in the global economy, especially as the leading producer of advanced semiconductors, the chips that power everything from smartphones to cars to artificial intelligence. A conflict involving Taiwan would disrupt global supply chains and could draw in the United States and its allies, raising the risk of a much larger war. What surprised you about some of the historical facts about tensions between China and Taiwan? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for clicking on the like icon.
Join us as we explore the incredible journey of the Chinese people, an enduring civilization whose resilience, innovation, and wisdom have shaped the world for thousands of years. Through their story, we gain a deeper appreciation for the profound impact the Chinese people have had on humanity throughout history and in modern times. During the Xia dynasty, circa 2070 to 1600 BCE, the Chinese established early forms of agriculture, bronze working, and developed a centralized government. While the Qing Dynasty, around 1600 to 1046 BCE, were the first confirmed Chinese dynasty with archaeological evidence. They developed writing, oracle bone script, bronze casting, and a complex religious system. The Zhou dynasty, from 1046 to 256 BCE, was the longest-lasting dynasty in Chinese history. This dynasty introduced the Mandate of Heaven, which is a Chinese political ideology used to legitimize rulers in ancient and imperial China. It claims heaven grants its mandate to a virtuous ruler, whose authority depends on wise and just governance. The ancient Chinese introduced their feudal system. This was a hierarchical structure of land ownership and political power that was designed to maintain control over a large territory. It was somewhat similar to the feudal system in medieval Europe, but with its own unique Chinese characteristics. During the Qing Dynasty, 221 to 206 BCE, the Chinese developed the first unified Chinese empire. They also introduced standardized weights, measures, currency, and writing. During this time, the Chinese built large sections of what would become the Great Wall, were ruled by Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. The Han Dynasty, 206 BCE to 220 BCE, is considered a golden age of Chinese culture, science, and technology. During this time, the Chinese developed the Silk Road and elevated the Confucian state. It also integrated philosophy, introduced papermaking, and a professional bureaucracy. The development of paper revolutionized record-keeping, education, and communication. When the Chinese developed printing during the Tang Song dynasty, they enabled mass production of books and knowledge dissemination. The Chinese also provided humanity with the compass that is used for navigation and global exploration, as well as gunpowder, which transformed warfare and fireworks. Their silk production stimulated trade and cultural exchange via the Silk Road as they traded porcelain, a major art and trade product known globally as China. The Chinese cultivated tea, which became a worldwide beverage with cultural and health significance, as well as acupuncture and traditional medicine. They influenced global holistic and alternative medical practices. Let's briefly review the influence of the ancient Silk Road in China's current economic and trade dominance. The Silk Road was not a single road, but a network of trade routes connecting China to Central Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. China exported silk, tea, porcelain, and paper, and imported horses, spices, glassware, and precious metals. These exchanges weren't just economic. They included ideas, religions, technology, and culture, making China both a global participant and influencer. The Silk Road helped develop merchant culture and logistics, trade diplomacy, and long-distance planning. It also designed infrastructure, thinking like caravans, roads, and canals. Clearly, the mindset and systems of trade were seeded centuries ago and deeply embedded in Chinese civilization, which adds to their success as a trading nation in 2025. In 1912, the same year that the Titanic crashed into the iceberg, the fall of Imperial China crashed history. This marked the end of dynasty rule as it promoted instability and decades of war. Trade and industrial development slowed under warlords, civil war, and occupation. In 1949, the People's Republic of China was founded under Mao Zedong. The economy was centrally planned. Private trade and enterprise were abolished. Major campaigns like the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution damaged economic productivity and international trade. But in 1978, China reformed and opened under Deng Xiaoping. It was a major game changer and the most influential event in China's modern trade and economic history. Deng Xiaoping was a Chinese revolutionary and statesman who became the paramount leader of China from 1978 to the early 1990s. Though Xiaoping was never officially president or general secretary, he held immense influence as the head of the Communist Party's reform wing. After surviving political purges during Mao Zedong's era, Deng Xiaoping rose to power and launched the reform and opening up policies in 1978. These reforms shifted China from a rigid, centrally planned economy to a more market-oriented, globally integrated system and ushered in decades of unprecedented economic growth. His famous phrase, "It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice," symbolized his pragmatic approach to economics over ideology. China's key reforms included open China to foreign investment and establish special economic zones, SEZs, like in Shenzhen. It also encouraged private enterprise and global trade and shifted from a command economy to socialism with Chinese characteristics. This jump-started massive industrialization, export-led growth, and lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, signaling deep integration into the global economy. It became the world's factory as it dominated exports of electronics, textiles, and machinery. The Belt and Road Initiative of 2013 to present is seen as a modern revival of the Silk Road. It includes massive infrastructure and trade investment across Asia, Europe, and Africa. The initiative aims to strengthen China's global trade connections and influence. Finally, China's ancient roots in trade from the Silk Road shaped China's cultural and strategic thinking. But modern trade success came mostly from reform policies in 1978, WTO integration, and state-led globalization efforts. China went from an inward-looking agrarian state to a global economic superpower in just a few decades, arguably the most dramatic economic transformation in modern history. During the creation of this video, China and the USA were in a stiff trade war over tariffs in April 2025. It will be interesting to see if the descendants of the ancient Silk Road will prevail over the still young USA, founded in 776, when it comes to global trade agreements. Please leave your comments below and thank you for supporting this channel.